And we're back. I'm Paul Fabrizio.
And I'm Don Frazier. I'm professor of history here at McMurray University, and he teaches political science across the hall.
You should say it with more...
He is professor of political science. Paul Fabrizio.
Use your radio voice there, Don.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not reading a commercial.
Okay. Anyway, we are going through the Constitution line by line, and are you ready for this? Article 1, Section 5, Clause 3.
Excellent.
Okay, get your pillows ready.
What's our line, man?
Okay, each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy. And yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal.
Wow. So you have to stand by your vote if 1 out of 5 people say you do.
That's exactly right.
And so the publication, I'm assuming, is the congressional record.
Yes. And I first got interested in Congress back in high school when I came across the congressional record.
Really?
And for those who have seen it, you go, how could anybody ever get interested
I was about to say, I bet you got beat up a lot as a kid.
Actually, no, but, it's just a collection in really small print of the proceedings. And it has the word-by-word utterances of all the members.
So it's a transcription.
It's a transcription. And then, of course, members say, I reserve the right to revise and extend my remarks. So it's not just a transcription. They can go and add more to it. Illuminated. So if they didn't like what they said, they go back and they fix the grammar, and then they add some more to it so they make sure they made sense.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that, let's say a viewer gets inspired to follow your egg-headed lead and actually read the congressional record.
Yeah, I must have been quite a kid in high school.
Well, I was about to say.
I mean, we had to do
I
library
was reading
work.
the encyclopedia at the same time. I mean, we were probably both little dorks.
We were. Well, I don't know what you were like, but I was a little dork. But we had to go to the library for 1 hour for some class, and I was looking around, what do I want to read? And there it was.
See, you're reading the congressional record. I was reading Civil War books.
Yeah.
So.
It all makes sense now.
It
led to this very thing. How sick that is.
So how would our viewers get a hold of the congressional record?
To be honest, I don't know. I haven't seen a copy in years.
I bet it's online.
I would assume it's online. It's not something I ever assign to my students.
Oh, yeah. Now, I've used it in research projects because, when you have congressional committees like the Committee on the Conduct of the War during the course of the American Civil War, a bunch of that stuff gets entered into the congressional record, right. Some of the conversations that are going on. And so you hit the congressional record to see exactly in that particular moment in time what these guys were saying and what the context of the moment was. And that's very, very useful when you're trying to rebuild and analyze, interpret events from the past. So, I mean, I understand why they said, you know what, everything you guys are doing is on record.
Right. 2 thoughts. One, when I look at things, I pay more attention to what takes place in the committees.
Oh, sure.
Because the committees,
that's part of it as well.
Right. The committees go into much greater depth than you would on the floor. And so the committees is really where the action takes place.
Sure.
The nuts and bolts of things take place. But the other thing, and you've made this point, it's a way to record votes. That's what we talk about here.
Yeah.
And it takes 1/5 of those present to request a vote. Yet it turns out that most votes in the House and the Senate are not recorded.
And most of them don't matter?
Number one, most votes don't matter. I mean, when they're approving a post office named after a congressman from wherever,
Cyrus B. Corncob Post Office.
Yeah, who
in
cares?
Chitlin Switch, Nebraska. Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
You came up with that.
I did, right off the top of my head.
Okay. And so a lot of that nobody cares about. But there's other things where the votes are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And if you've got an uncomfortable vote, and it can be an uncomfortable vote for both parties, the last thing you want to do is be on record And you'd rather have a sense of the House, a sense of the Senate, if you're an elected member of Congress. So nobody asked for a recorded vote, and instead, it's a voice vote. Yeah. All those in favor, aye. All those opposed, nay.
And there's some old timer that's in charge of party discipline pointing his finger or her finger at some junior, congressman, some freshman congressman saying, do not ask for this on the record.
Right.
We know you're trying to make a big splash
That's right.
from your district in whatever megalopolis you're from, but you need to do what we say.
Right. And this is the leadership, and it would be the person who's called the whip.
Yeah.
Which is typically the number 2 person who would be responsible for whipping the members in line so they vote per the leadership. And the leadership does not want to force the members to take uncomfortable votes.
Correct.
That would just be horrible for people because it could be used against you when you're running for re-election.
Oh, sure.
So therefore, it would be part of a collective legislative strategy. How can we accomplish what we want, get the results we want, and not hurt our membership
without having to pin the tail on the donkey for everybody to see?
Exactly.
That's interesting. So that's a lot of kind of the sausage making then that goes on in Congress.
Exactly. So we have this idea, and that's how I remember reading the congressional record as a high school freshman was, oh, look at how they're voting.
And look how transparent they are.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, not really.
Not really.
Not really.
They're dancing around a bunch of stuff to keep it out of the proceedings.
Right. Now, with a more partisan Congress like we have today than compared to 30 or 40 years ago, you're more likely to see recorded votes.
Yeah, I imagine
because
so.
One party is very happy to see the other party be uncomfortable.
We want you to be embarrassed. So let's put it on record.
Exactly. But there's still things, and in fact the majority of things, where there isn't a recorded vote.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Well, that'll give people something to do.
Yes, there you go.
All sorts of questions. Why wasn't this a recorded vote?
Why did you vote, Mr. Congressman, that way? Well, actually, how did you vote, Mr. Congressman? What did you do?
Yeah, what would you say you do here?
Yeah. And by the way, one other point I want to make. We often think of the voting as a voting on a final bill. But in actuality, when you look at legislation, there is a series of votes that go along, and many of those votes are not recorded.
Things like voting to call the question, I'm sure.
Voting to call the question, voting to approve the rules that are going to be used for the debate, voting on the various amendments. Some amendments are really important, some amendments are not really important.
We need to put a comma there instead of a dash. Yeah.
Right.
Anybody that's been in a faculty meeting has seen this absolutely in play. There's always somebody that wants to be the pedant right there in the moment, and that's what leads to 4 and 5 hour faculty meetings that just go nowhere.
That's right.
But that's just us.
And in Congress, it can lead to debates that go on.
And on.
And on.
Until somebody calls a question.
That's right.
And then nobody records that vote.
There you go. It's a beautiful system.
It is a great system. So is that our line?
That's our line.
Okay, so one more line of the Constitution under our belt. We'll do another line from the Constitution in the next episode. Thanks for watching.